Hi, everyone. So tonight we're with Val Olson. So we're going to be discussing her YouTube channel, maybe a little bit of politics, and just overall conversation. So Val, how are you doing tonight? Thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Really good.
Good. Val, would you be able to tell me a little bit more about yourself and maybe your YouTube channel that you just started here?
Well, my name is Val, and I'm happy to be joining you guys tonight. I love having a conversation that just includes everyone. So for those that are maybe watching after, I really hope that you're putting your comments in the comment section because I'm going to be following along. And if we get on a topic that is of interest to you, or you connect with it, or you want more information, please reach out. I really my Facebook community is my family, and it's been a long growing page, and it encompasses many people. I do have a YouTube channel, Val Olson, but mostly I do my probably my what I would say the biggest part of life is shared on my Facebook platform. I find it's just handy and easy, especially as a mom. My background is broadcast journalism, so I have been on many radio stations. I was even in TV for a while, but I really found that my heart was to connect with the people that they really are the stories. They really were where my interest was. Meeting somebody who I would interview, and then they would become a friend because you find you have stuff in common. So I really focus now on being a voice for the people, and I tend to be somebody who is. I always say in politics that I'm just an echo amongst the millions. And that's the truth. It's just I'm not scared to speak up. I've always been somebody that when I see something wrong or I see something that's not right, I want to share, what I feel and what I think about it. And now those qualities are, they're really, you're made to feel as a woman doing that in Canada. Well, you better just keep your mouth shut. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And I'm raising two little girls that I tell them all the time, there is never a question you should be afraid to ask. You can ask anything you want to ask. In fact, here's one of them right now. See, our
Yes. Hi.
home is actually a set. My set is a home, I should say, however you want to look at it. But I want to make my life. I don't want any fake in it. I'm so tired of fake. And after being mainstream media for so many years, it wasn't real and authentic like it is now. So I'm broadcasting from in my home, and life happens here. And so I'm going to build what I'm doing. I'm going to take my kids, I'm going to take my family wherever I go, and I refuse to compromise. And that's something that's very interesting, and how I've changed is being in media. You really have to put your family on the back burner, is how I felt, to get ahead, to be able to cover everything from 4 in the morning, when you're getting up and going to work, until 11 o'clock at night. And the family time was not prioritized. And when that happens, it's hard to find a balance, a healthy balance in life. And I've just done like a 360. We are a family now who is just trailblazing. I really truly feel like my husband and I are pioneering something. It's kind of like we've escaped the state. And that might sound funny living in Alberta, but if you stop and you take a look at your life and how many appointments that you are running to that have government tied to it, how many doctor's appointments and specialist appointments, and there's this thing wrong with your kid, maybe. There's that thing wrong, maybe. So you got to go here. And it's literally a rat race on like drugs. It's insane. Like, you couldn't keep up. Family time, family meals, impossible. Just facilitating and running the rat race of
And,
all
and
of the responsibilities.
to be like a trailblazer or somebody who does things differently is it's pretty rewarding in itself, and it's fun. It's a little bit tough sometimes because you got nobody to that will uh, give you that little pat on the shoulder or whatnot because you're the only one doing it, right? But it's fun, and it's I think it's really rewarding at the end of the day. Our family is a bit similar too. We do things pretty much differently than everybody else. So yeah, no, I know how you feel.
And how do you rate that you're doing a good job? Who do you let, kind of influence you and your wife, your process, I guess, to say, yeah, we really are doing a good job.
I, it's hard to say who we would model from, but for us as parents, we are we're the ones that have our kids' interests at heart, right? Because we're
Yeah.
homeschooling, so I don't
So
know
it's
if
your
you were
kids.
aware, but yes, so we take care of our kids. We make sure that they get what they need. Um, what's nice about it
Hmm.
too is we get to grow with them, right? Rather than just send them to school, send them to daycare, and come back when you're 18 years old and you're all done, or once you're done university, and then so it's a way it's different relationship, and it's hard to explain in a little bit. But our kids are going to be growing up closer to us, whereas other
Hmm.
kids might get their influence from the media, from pop stars or um, TV athletes or whatnot. So, um, which is quite different. So for us,
It's
it
true.
pushes us
It's
to be
true.
better too as parents because we're there all the time. They see everything that we do, every little mistakes,
Hmm.
every good things as well. But it pushes us to be better as individuals too.
It's so true. And you just touched on something there. So I want to just say, like, in Alberta, how are our kids being modeled, and who is influencing them? You mentioned a few things, but I want to say, pay attention to the school. Don't just think because, oh, we're in, good little Alberta or Saskatchewan or the prairie provinces, they're just getting a great education. I want to encourage you to start to look inside the material if your children are in public school. That changed my life. This is a textbook that's, yeah, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so I learned that textbooks were being locked in boxes in classrooms. There were special boxes with teachers wearing special keys. And I couldn't believe that. I thought, what do you mean you can't bring your textbook home? And so that really started me on a journey of getting
Really.
involved, because homework doesn't come home anymore. It's, I mean, I'm not going to speak for every single classroom in Alberta, but I'm going to speak in my own children's experience. And if your children, if you can relate, if they're not bringing homework home, you as a parent maybe don't know what they're being exposed to. So, again, I would encourage you to start taking these textbooks. I carry this textbook with me, and I travel all over the place. And I take this and I show at source level, who wrote this textbook, when was this textbook made, by who, and what is the material inside of it. Now, do you agree with these anti-Alberta sentiments on oil, on the oil sector? Why don't you have a read through it for yourself? Those are the conversations that, regardless of your politics, all of a sudden this impacts you, it impacts your children, it impacts for many Albertans their way of life. So that starts just in your kid's classroom. And if you want to go one step further, actually, this little ditty right here is a real important one that every parent should see. This was produced by who I call the father of fake conservatism in Canada, Stephen Harper. You might know him. You might rally for him and wish we had him instead of Justin Trudeau. But let me tell you, this document right here is absolutely, it damages relationships between, it's designed to damage relationships between parent and child. And instead, it's a method and way and map for the government to come in between your relationship with your child. And, you know, that was a real wake up call. Now, this isn't new. Okay. We're talking, this was produced many years ago, but it's still on the Government of Canada website and it's still in place. So those are just a couple things that when it comes to our kids and what they're exposed to, you don't have to look very far to see there's some serious anti-family material that our little ones are given, bought and paid for by the government.
Wow, that's interesting. I think there's a lady too from BC, or Lauren Thompson. Am I correct? I think she's done a lot of research on those topics too. Not necessarily school, but parental rights, I believe. And she touched on a lot of
Yes.
those topics. And I was worried about it too. I went and I looked at the curriculum that they wanted to impose on children. I think it was the Soji agenda in BC and in Alberta.
Yes.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
they rolled that back with the UCP government. And if I'm not mistaken, I haven't followed that story too much. It was very similar in Quebec too. I think what's happening is a lot of
Well, I just want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so I want to make Albertans that are listening aware that I have major concerns, especially when it comes to Jason Kenney and the UCP party in particular with parental rights. And I was someone who followed every word he said very closely. And so I have been, raising the warning flags around him. But he did say in particular, and if you do decide to follow me on social media, you'll see it's a video I share often of Jason Kenney giving teachers the right over parents to decide when it comes to allowing, secrets between teacher and student. He's given the teacher ultimate decision making over a parent. And that sat dormant. He said that, and nobody wanted to talk about it. And I was amazed that he said it, right? Right? He spit it out of his own mouth, and the facts are right in front of you. And people just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to address how serious that is, because that's really a telltale sign that the parents are not going to win if a fight does come our way.
It's a big issue, and I think what's happening too is a lot of those things have always been self-evident that the parents had rights over their kids and not the teachers or the school or the government. Now those things are being challenged, and a lot of people just don't know what to say. They don't have the arguments. They don't have the time, and sometimes they're just not aware either that those things are happening.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to add a little something too, as it had to do with the library. I think I forgot exactly how I tied into what you were saying, but anyway,
Did you say library?
Oh, okay. So the books, what they were talking in the books that were leaning a certain way, for example. So I went to the library here in Fort McMurray, and all the books all left leaning. So we're an oil town, right? So everything runs on oil. So I go to the library and then I get those books, and they got a nice layout, a nice little drop of oil, looks really nicely finished. And I open the index and I start to read, and it's all anti-oil sands. So I pick another book, and pretty much every one of them were left leaning, far left leaning, and all the conservative voices were completely censored. So
Right.
a lot of people will get exposed only to one side of the argument on pretty much every topic. So that's why usually I'll just buy my books online. And then if I actually asked to have certain books, and then they kind of looked at me like I was a weirdo or something. But yeah, and that's
Who
really
produced
happening.
the books? Did you happen to look at who made those books possible?
I'm not sure, but what I was told is that they were getting their orders from Toronto. So this was not Fort Mac that was deciding what they were getting in store. Now, I also went to a library in Edmonton, and Edmonton seemed like they were getting more different views or diversity of opinions um, and perspectives compared to Fort Mac, which was like one sided completely. And as soon as I laid out the books that I
Mhm.
would like to see, the managers just stopped talking to me. So, but it's everywhere.
Well, I do help I do help people from time to time, and I use my background in a different way now. And now I educate people to treat it like treat it like a research project, or do some investigative journalism, and find out how did that book make its way on the shelf. I would go so far as to go to the librarian and maybe don't show all your cards up front and say, wow, like what a book, what a can you tell me a little bit about this? How did this get on the shelf? Who determines that these, anti-oil books end up, in the kids section? Who determines that? And there's been some libraries across Alberta where there's been different things happen. I even saw they have what's called living books, and this would be something that I don't know has crept in the East, but if you're watching this broadcast, definitely pay attention to this because I have a lot of concerns with this. Libraries that I know of in particular were bringing in content in movies. So they're bringing in free movies for the kids to watch. Parents don't have to be there if the child is of a certain age. And, these are inappropriate films that I would not want my child to be just dropped off and watching. And, a lot of it of sexual nature that you don't really think of at your library. Or another thing is called living books, where they have people behind the book. So if you have, a skill or an interest or something, you can put yourself as a live living book, and then a child can sign you out. So this is actually true. You could sign out an adult who has a sex change, and a child can, meet and talk about, ask questions. So our library is changing rapidly from when probably you and I were kids and we'd go to the library and we'd sign out some books. It's a real, government run facility. And again, this stuff, there's so much. Our world and our culture is changing so rapidly. And you almost, it's like you start peeling that onion and wow, it's just, there's so much there. So don't just take at a surface level. Ask questions. I come back to my kids again. I say, don't ever let anyone make you feel bad for asking why. I remember as a kid, as a little girl, I got to be just embarrassed because I would ask why, but why? How is that possible? And I used to get in trouble a lot for being so inquisitive. And I'm sure it can be annoying at times, but the point is, that's got me to where I am today, and I'm standing on that. And those are important things to make sure that we take that innocence and strength in our kids that they have, and don't let it get away. Nurture it, grow it, because they are tomorrow's hope.
Yes, and they're your biggest investment as a family too. Like people think of an investment as your RSPs or your stocks or your pension, but really your kids is your biggest investment that you'll be making in your life. And um, they're so much fun, and they're definitely worth protecting because one day you never know too. They might be the ones who will take care of you as you get older. From my personal experience, so for us in Canada, it's not so much of a problem because we got usually some pretty good retirement programs, pensions, right? But I see my wife's from the Philippines originally, and they don't have those kinds of programs over there, so they have to take care of their parents. Um, and who knows, like in our country, the way things are going right now, we might have to go back towards that path one day if we get really on the wrong track, as we can see with the government right now that's just spending all that money We don't know what's going to happen with our pensions, and maybe we'll have to have our kids take care of us rather than be the opposite. And yeah, we got to take care of them, and they're our
But
future.
aren't
So,
we already on that path?
oh, definitely.
Right, and I think we're already on that path. When you
Yeah.
look at, government-run elderly care, you know, that culturally, I think that's something, maybe that's something in Canada that Gen X is going to look at exploring further. And even today, you've got a lot of kids, adult kids, who are living in their parents' basements for whatever reason. Okay, but they're staying in the nest longer than they ever have before, and they could end up being the ones that then become the adults, and roles reverse. um, I kind of look at it like this. I shoot for, we've got one shot at parenting, so I want to do the best I can. And that's why, like, the family unit and coming home and making home the center of everything I do. That was the single best decision that just changed my whole life. I was a high capacity, high achiever, and if someone told me no, look out. But I learned that my role as a wife and mom was what I was called, was my ultimate purpose. And my whole life changed with that revelation that I wasn't going to be great at anything else if I didn't have authentic and just like real at home, and embrace that, and everything else would flow out of that. And so it was actually my husband who, when all this stuff with the schooling was happening, he's like, you would be the best for our kids. Like, you care so much about our community and all of the kids. And because I tried to fight this, like, I fought it tooth and nail. I ignited a petition that saw, all the parents A from Z groups. Like, I mean, I covered them all, the church groups, Muslims, Mormons, every diverse group you could think of. I was hitting the pavement, and I was going to make sure we all made a difference. But it turned out it didn't matter how many signatures we had standing up for parents over the government when it comes to our children. It was a no win battle, and I took that, from start to finish, igniting that to supporting the people that charged it into the Court of Queen's Bench, and we got
Yes,
nowhere,
because
nowhere
it,
other
it,
than a real cold look at.
because in a sense we're run by ideologues at so many levels, either in government and sometimes teacher. I'm not
Yeah.
saying the teachers are not doing a good job. A lot of them do, and they do care, but some of them are also ideologues, and you got to be careful with that. And just to get back to your point, you're a stay-at-home mom, is my guess. I find it's
Well, I'm a.
yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'd say, like, I am. I do. I'm at homeschooling our kids. I work from home, so for me, home based, instead of going to a radio station at 4 a.m., I've realized, hey, I am my own media service. I have the skills. I have. There's hungry people. My audience just grows and grows and grows, because as the world keeps going more chaotic and upside down, um, you know, people are searching and they're looking. And so I'm still as busy on all levels of my full-time media career in radio and TV station, and big markets. I'm as busy at home networking within my communities and beyond, because I also ventured into politics. I was a political candidate for the Wild Rose Party, and I stayed in the ground, but also was able to see some of what I would say now are warning signs for what's coming. I saw the bad, the evil things that up until probably now I haven't even been ready to talk about when it comes to corruption and activity of our political parties in Canada, and specifically, I mean, we can go on and on and on and bash Justin Trudeau till you're blue in the face, but we're not going to wear and know what his agenda is. He's clear about it. My passion now is to stand up to these spineless conservative men who have infiltrated and infest, not just limited to men, there's women there too, but they are what I say is like a huge threat to Canada, regular everyday Canadians' lives, are these infiltrators who have flown a false flag, and they have infested all levels of government, from municipal to provincial to federal, and they have, you know, an anti-family agenda at the core, at the root of what they are behind and what they are accomplishing, and you will find it confirmed for you in documents that impact your children and your way of parenting, your way of life. You'll find it in the textbooks, and so it's a real wake-up call, and life changes when you realize there is more going on than meets the eye.
And that's happened before. It's not the first time it happens. You can think of communist Russia, Nazi Germany. They all went through that. They separated the kids from the children, and within one generation, they ended up in a terrible spot. Of course, we don't want to go there. So I think maybe the best path is really to educate people on what's happening. And I think another solution would probably be to have people actually start paying attention and run for political office, either at the local level, federal level, provincial level, because it's not just Justin Trudeau. You fire Justin Trudeau, the system that's corrupt, that promotes that, is still in place. So you haven't solved any of your problems. I think there's a false sense of comfort for people to say, hey, I'm going to go vote once every 4 years and all my problems are going to go away. The problem is so much deeper. Yeah, and we definitely need to fix that. I would say it's
You're
probably
right.
5 to midnight.
I do think that's a good. I think that that's a good recommendation to run for politics. I've watched many good people run, and they simply can't get there. So my advice is, you find somebody that you support or somebody that you know would be really good at the job, and you build your own political team, and you can do it on a budget. You can do it by just being honest, just being willing to tell the truth. But don't look at it as win or lose is the, you know, winning is the goal. I mean, it's great. Yes, you want to win. You want to have your eyes set there. But the point is, it doesn't stop. That opportunity for a platform to have a limited time of just run to get your message out there it needs to be more of the focus and more of the drive. And I'm kind of talking more like I'm in a war room right now, but it's a really solid piece of advice that will work well, is if you can craft a message that gets people's attention, and you run on that message, and you take every opportunity to challenge the system, challenge the status quo. And when you don't win, you do what I do. You get up the next day and you keep knocking on doors. I haven't stopped knocking on doors. I think in my city of 65,000 people, I knocked on doors until it was in the thousands. Rain, snow, sun, every season, holiday, it didn't matter. I was knocking on doors until finally people came to knock on my door. And, you know, and I think that that's the point, is don't set yourself up and get, you know, set a goal that's, okay, I've got to get to office. It doesn't matter. It's like Maxime Bernier. I find he's a great inspiration because he's in it for the long haul. He's a marathon. He knows it's a marathon, not
It's
a
a marathon,
race.
yeah.
And I think we need to start thinking like that mentally. And also, this is a big tip from somebody that had numerous traders come into my circle, because what I was doing was not normal. I didn't have the establishment. Obviously, I was exactly opposite of the establishment. So in the beginning, that meant, like, if there was a sign over my head, it would have said fresh meat. So in the beginning, they really, they pulled some fast ones on me, and you have to learn as you go. But
Because of your
I come
experience,
back
right,
to
at
my
the
faith.
time. So.
It was, but it was also a dangerous one at times. And I saw and I experienced things that if I did not have my faith in the hand of God on me, I wouldn't be here today to be able to offer this information and this advice to you. But I don't want you to be discouraged when traitors and the government sends their own agents right in there to work in your inner circles. I would look at that and I would embrace those people, and I would love them where they're at, because we are to love all people, and don't get discouraged by them. And I would see these great ideas that I would have. I would see, the very next day, the government, in my case, it was the NDP. They would be taking these ideas that I had put in motion, and they'd be running with them. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me, how was this happening? And then I realized, that's what happens is when you're
Exactly.
different and you're authentic and you're real, they're going to be right around you, just like a bloodsucker. Except it's not blood they're sucking; it's your freedom.
And I see that a little bit on social media or through the different political platforms. If you look at most of our political leaders right now, especially with COVID, you look at all the responses that they're taking. They just go with opinion polls or with where the media brings them. They're not driven by principles or ideas. They don't know what they believe in. If somebody tells them that you got to lock down the entire planet, they'll lock down the entire planet. They don't know why, but you just do it, right? There's a reason why we have individual rights and liberties in Canada that we don't take them away. They're not optional. They're not conditional. You don't have them on a Monday and you take them on a Tuesday. But those guys have no clue. They were voted in, and actually our MP in our area has been elected twice, never had a debate once. People just voted for him. So he doesn't care. He doesn't need to educate himself because he's not really fighting for you. Um, but if you look, you were talking about Maxime Bernier. That's the one thing I liked about him is his policies were based on principles. And now, even if he hasn't been elected, his ideas are still traveling. I was telling my dad in Quebec, he's a dairy farmer. He said, Maxime will never get in, blah, 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 because we said so. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. His ideas are still traveling. His principles are following them, are following. Sorry. His principles are still traveling either through the internet, like the internet's super powerful means of communication, way fast, way better than television at the time, right? Um, 20 years ago, we'd be getting our news in the morning in the newspaper. We'd open up TV in the evening, whereas now you're constantly bombarded through your phones. I don't personally have a smartphone, but most people do. So ideas, especially good ideas, will travel a lot faster. And I think that's the shift that we need to take in Canada, but people haven't realized that yet. So I just can't wait to have that happen here before it's too late because we're
That's
on the
great.
wrong track.
You said, yeah. Well, values are timeless, for one. Okay, so values have withstood the test of time, and it's your values, your morals that are within, and you're talking about standards. Um, See, my standards. Yes, yeah, you can get her one. Sorry, I'm talking about standards, and standards have changed. Like in my own life, my standard for quality living today is way different than it was 10 years ago when I was in that rat race, and I was going to be number one, and I was going to be this high capacity rah woman, female leader. Don't tell me what to do. Whereas now, embracing my values and caring what my husband thinks. Like, I care what he thinks because I value his input. Um, my whole life changed. The standards, the values, all that, and right since the dawn of time, you can go back and see that, right? So I personally think, as Maxime, as more of who Maxime is at what I call heart level. And when I interview him, he's very good. He doesn't tell me in advance. And I've had politicians tell me, I'm not going here. Don't ask me that. He
Really?
doesn't. He stands in front of that camera and he lets me ask what I'm going to ask. And there's nothing off limits. And so I always try and go to different areas in an interview than a typical mainstream personality would. Because honestly, if we're going to change Canada, it's who that person is on the inside. We need to see that come on the outside, and then that's going to take off. You don't need media to spread that. Like you said, values are gonna they're gonna trailblaze, kind of like what I'm doing. He's gonna trailblaze just by standing on principle. And one interesting thing that I challenged Maxime on was polling and data, because so much is held up on this. On the TV said 25%, then 27, then 67. And I stopped. And remember, I was that little girl who said, but why? But how? And I started doing that again. I said, but where's the data? Where is the data?
Exactly.
Because these polls that were coming across the screen, I could make the very same ones with a kindergarten class. I could make those graphics, those numbers to 27.2%. Anybody can do that. And so when you start peeling that onion back, and if there is no data behind it that is in your face, then it means that your polling is actually more accurate than what you're seeing on the TV. And what I mean by that is you go door to door, you knock on the door, and you take a tabulation yourself. When people give you a number, they are handing you what's called persuasion. They are trying to persuade a narrative to get you to vote how they want you to. Don't think for a second you know how your neighbor is going to vote. That is their God-given and inalienable right to vote their conscience. And I would never be so assuming to think that I know how Buddy down the street is going to cast his vote.
Absolutely. And that's a problem in Canada a little bit, I find, is people don't vote their conscience. They vote what will get Justin Trudeau out. They're having the same issues in the US right now. So if you look at the Democrats, they say anybody else but Trump, even though Joe Biden can't barely string two words together. He's got some serious issues, but people will still vote for him because they don't vote on principle. They don't care who it is. They're just voting against somebody. And conservatives in Canada, the tables are reversed. It's exactly what we're doing, and it doesn't matter what they have to offer, even if they have nothing to offer, they'll still vote for Justin Trudeau, and that's a bit of a
It's
problem.
true. It is. It's a worrisome, and I think that's where we need to look at the religious block of voters, and I think that is a specific area that needs to be touched on. Is the religious vote block in Canada, and people need to start looking at one area that hasn't been talked about by anybody. So I think maybe I'm breaking a story, but many churches have a standard or they have values. So if they're using the Bible as an example as their foundation, then when it comes to life and death, when it comes to those core foundational values that morals are built on, you would naturally assume that they should be conservative in the way that they vote. And when you see, and I have personally witnessed this, that many echelon within different religious groups are bringing conservative politicians who are from the swamp, as I would put it, or from the establishment. They're bringing them to the pulpits, and the church is endorsing the government pick. And so it's time, I think, that people that know what I'm talking about, that go, hey, I watched that happened in my own church. it didn't sit well with you, did it? That's my question to them. Did it sit well with you? And if it didn't, I want to challenge you to stand up and ask those hard questions.
And it's
Ask
okay.
those hard questions.
And it's okay to have hard questions. It's okay to have some beliefs and some principles, right? I find a lot of people. I'm not sure if we gotten soft, or maybe there's so many principles are so self-evident in our society that we never learned how to defend them. So now they're being challenged. No, and nobody knows how to fight back. And everybody's afraid to voice their opinion because they're afraid to offend somebody, and that's wrong. That's why we're losing all the time, not as conservatives, but as Canadians at large.
Well, if
And
we
we're talking about Canadians, so you could be immigrant, men, women, or whatever walk of life, but you need to have principles, and sometimes you need to take a stand, and you need to be able to articulate it too. So hopefully, with our videos, that's a little bit of what we're doing. We're giving some ammunitions to other people who would be otherwise scared to express what they're thinking.
Well, and you're defining what politically correct is. Politically correct is meant, whatever you're thinking, don't say it, because it's a social law. And if you say it, you could be shunned. And I guess I've been through all that. There was a time where um, when I ran as a political candidate, just being so new to the process, I was taking advice from all kinds of people. And like I said, that was fresh meat for the establishment, because they would put people specifically around you to almost make you go in circles and you're second guessing yourself. But that also brings me to what's actually going on inside of political parties. Okay. And this is a big topic that is not being talked about, but I'm addressing it here because I want people who are listening to start paying attention and to think differently about what's actually going on and what politicians have happening on the inside. So when a candidate is elected, what happens is the establishment surrounds that person. They become source of information. Their information corrupted, meaning they are not, and I'll tell you how I know this, who is able to get to their politician and make a difference, make a genuine impact, see something good actually come from it. How often does that happen? So they are controlled, their information of what to focus on, what they should be advocating for, and many of them are like, they'll have interest groups that are brought specifically to them over and over again, so that they think it's an issue is much bigger than it actually is. All of their time is consumed. Even the horrible things that get said about them online is a handler on the inside who knows their weaknesses. So it's a vicious game, because these politicians think they have a friend. They're confiding. What should I do? Well, here's what this, and that handler will be right there to say, well, this poll says that you have to do this. It's like a game. It's like a psychological game, and so
They're stuck
many
in
of
an
them
echo
don't
chamber,
even
really.
know if they're coming or going. What?
So they would be stuck in an echo chamber a little bit. And that's why there's
Yes.
that
Yeah.
disconnect between real life people and them, right? And they work pretty much for the establishment, or lobby groups, I would call them. So you could have some at the federal level that could work for China, Iran,
Mm-hmm.
Bombardier, SNC Lavalin. They work for everybody else but the voters. So your vote doesn't actually direct policy. And that's the problem. And that's why we need
Right.
people
Why do
like
you
the
think?
other. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Why do you think Maxime, or sorry, not Maxime, CSIS? Okay, it was CSIS when Stephen Harper was still in power, and he was saying that there were MPs in political parties that were like, there was concern. They were on the radar. There was evidence of corruption, of outside influence. That went nowhere. That went nowhere. But for people listening today, start there. And that was years ago.
So just I'm aware of one in 1997, a report from CSIS. It's called the Sidewinder Project or Sidewinder. If you ever got time, you can look that up. It was shut down in 1997, and it was showing the Chinese influence in Canada and how they influence our politicians, business leaders, academia, university teachers, scientists, boards of directors in Canada. That's in 1997. So we get a big gap in between. And then 2018, CSIS released another report about foreign interference, either in our elections and same thing again, businesses, government, and whatnot. So it's happening. I think the U.S. has kept up on that, although they've got some serious issues with it too. But I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. I think the citizens go back and reclaim their institutions of power.
Yeah, I like your plan. I like your approach. And I think, again, it comes back to beginning with honest conversation. And what you'll find is people will be able to, everybody has natural gifts and things that, skills that they can, when you look in any community. And so when you start putting your skills together, you build an information network. And if you can build a strong information network on being able to get cold hard facts, then you can respond as a well equipped unit of that you're able to make a difference, whether your aim is to make your city safer or your community or your neighborhood, or elect a politician who's going to go there and actually work for you. The sky's the limit, but everything for me really comes down to um, being and working from a space of like authentic self, real self, and like what you see is what you get. There's no ulterior motive. It's and when you have a whole party or team of people working from that, the impossible becomes possible.
That's true. And just get back to your point for because you're a stay at home mom. I know a lot of people say sometimes, oh, I can't afford to have my wife do that. Um, I think you got to flip it the other way around. So it's a little bit the same thing we did. Is my wife stays at home, but she started a part-time business. So now she's earning a little bit of extra income. It helps. We get to see the kids grow together. And not only that, she's taking care of our biggest investment in our family, in our lifetime. So that's the most important job that she has. And it's too often we don't appreciate it, or it's not valued enough in our society, in today's society. And I think that's one of the reasons we're going sideways on so many things is we took that we want it or not, women are better for caring for children. Like I'm pretty good too, but I think a woman is it's their biological instinct, I guess, because it's a different relationship with a woman and a child than there is with a man and a child. So women will have an actual physical relationship from when the baby's in the womb, and it'll continue to grow after once the baby is out. Whereas a man will have mostly like an emotional connection that develops after the baby is out. So women are more naturally inclined to take care of kids, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I don't know why we don't value that anymore. And sometimes the fact that we don't makes families more vulnerable.
Well, that I lost you a little bit there, but
Yeah,
that was
you're
very technical to how I answer it. I just approach it from a place of natural, and you know, um, like my husband and I are a team, so I can't afford not to be at home because the best stuff is from the home. So technically speaking, I still do work, but I'm proud to say that my focus and my number one priority is that I'm doing it from home. So from homeschooling to cooking, just that all Canadian life. Like I embrace my God-given talents and skills of, my husband has strengths I don't. I consider it in this home where go change the oil, go change the tires. Okay. And I, on the other hand, I love to be able to make him a nice Alberta beef dinner because he loves his Alberta beef. Who doesn't? That's brain food, by the way. You know, there are natural things that what's natural, and not try and turn it off, and not try and, like, so opposite of a woman would be a man. So if I go, put on coveralls, and, I'm gonna fix that tire. Well, truth is, I actually can't. And there's a lot of women who can, and that's their thing, and that's great. But
And it's okay that women have the
men are
option.
built a certain way, are built a certain. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally have the option. But it's to embrace those traditional, if being a woman who can cook. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of girlfriends who are like, I can't cook. I don't know how to turn a stove on. And I always think, okay, well, I want to help you. What can I do to help you? Because it feels good. It's warm, and at Christmas time, when there's nothing like that, like being able to make something with love, and that's a strength, and that's femininity that is beautiful. And feminism has corrupted it, right? They've tried to remove the mom from being at home. They've tried to sever the husband and the wife, and put the woman, in basically, um, like an unhappy, like a feminist is, they're unhappy. Do they talk about
True.
Christmas dinner and how much they love being with their family or their spouse? They look to their husband for advice. Like, when I'm down and I need help, I want to go to someone who's got my back, who loves me, who's going to be honest with me. So again, those are things that I think just encompass what's natural about a woman and a wife and a mom.
Yes, and in a sense too, like the home cooked meals, for example, are going to be the focal, um, the center of attention during supper time. Pretty much, you can have the entire family come together, and that's family time. It's kind of sacred. It's got something that's special, and to be the one that makes that happen is kind of important. It's rewarding. For us, my wife's had lots of friends, and we were giving out gifts all the time, and I'm like, I can't do that all. Like, this is too much. You got too many friends, and I know they're important, but we got to figure out a different way of doing that. So what we started doing, she started baking cakes. At first it was for us, some of our friends. When she was baking them, well, first of all, we'd save a little bit of money. uh, the biggest investment was time, which is something that's important too. So when you give out that cake, it's personalized. Your friend is the only one who's getting that kind of cake. It shows how much you care about them because you invested time rather than just invest money or give a gift card like most people would do. So it has a lot of value in it, and she felt so rewarded, and eventually it grew and grew and grew, and then she turned it into a small business. We're not doing that anymore. We moved on to other projects, but she did that for a year, maybe two, and she was quite successful, and she really enjoyed it too.
That is so beautiful. I love that story. And another side of that deserves recognition too is you bring home the bacon, right? It's a team effort.
Yes, absolutely. But it's something that's been lost because I guess with third wave feminism they call it. They pretty much give a very bad image of the woman who stays at home. They show her as oppressed or whatnot, where it's actually the opposite. Now, some women might not see that, but it's important to make them feel as it's actually empowering. And I think a lot of them don't know that.
I love that term, empowering. That's really what it is, and being someone who's been on both sides of it, and now I think I have a healthy balance of being able to make the best of both worlds, because I think sometimes you can maybe without having you can lose your identity if you don't maybe find a way to it doesn't matter if a woman, I don't want to limit this to just women, because you're not like you're contributing, whether it be through working with your hands or bringing income in or whatever the case is for you. You know, sometimes people can feel like uh, it's they don't have an identity that they're proud of. But I want to say stop. That's like a narrative that you've got to rewind from and look at home as being the center point of the best of everything is going to come after you have that home life, and that is the source. Like working as a husband and wife team, if that's a healthy place, you can conquer the world, because right, like the Bible said that. So I believe that you are spiritually linked, that he's got your front, God is, it's just a circle, and so you're working at it from the approach of a team, and two is always better than one. So
Absolutely. So Val, we're pretty close to the 1 hour cutoff. Well, not I wouldn't say cutoff, but I want to try to keep it to an hour or so. So it's a really nice discussion. We're probably going to have to do that again sometimes. I don't know if you'd have some closing words for us.
oh, that was fun. I just want to encourage those of you that are listening, that are have taken the time, taken that hour, and I want you to be inspired and encouraged to have conversations that are authentic and real, because I'm telling you, that is like the juice. That is the juice that on those hard days, and um, there is somebody that cares and connects, and your network will just grow. It's like a lighthouse goes off, and that lighthouse can impact only their street, their community, but their country and a nation. So I want to encourage you to stop. Don't bite your tongue. Start asking why. Start asking how. And who knows? Maybe it'll be you and I, or it could be you too. Who knows? Just talking to somebody who's listening to this broadcast from across Canada. Because what I'm finding is we really truly are all walking towards the same goal. We are all pursuing freedom. That's what's kept you on this broadcast. I'm sure that that's our common denominator. So it'll be so nice to meet you in person, to those of you who are listening on the other end of this, and for those of you that think you're not making it,
Oh, I think I'm losing you here, but I think you're bringing up some good points. The conversation is so nice today. I learned a lot tonight. I'm sure maybe you learned a few things. I don't see why people would go into self censorship. I see that a lot. People that are afraid to speak up, speak out, and it's so important, especially if we want to make things better. What people don't realize is freedom of expression is a how you call it. It's a conflict resolution mechanism, and we've had that. That's what sets us apart from animals, from the animal kingdom. So very important, and I think just having a discussion like this is really good. We get to learn a lot from each other. So I'm really glad you came on tonight, and we'll definitely do that again sometimes. So for everybody who's watching, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.